Martha Stevens. Case file reopened. For more than 2 decades, this name existed only in official records. A widow, a neighbor, a presence remembered by few, but documented by all. It is one of those cases that starts quietly. A person fails to return home, and the absence is noticed before panic sets in. Martha Stevens was last seen in 1998. Her life was marked by ordinary routines: visits to the market, walks along the waterfront, tending to the small garden that gave her home its only color, correspondence with friends and family. She was reliable, predictable, and without history of disappearance. That is what made her sudden absence anomalous. The day she vanished was like any other. No witnesses reported arguments, no unusual activity was noted, and yet, by evening, Martha Stevens was gone. The local police, under the jurisdiction of the county sheriff's department, were notified. What followed was the first ripple of procedure. A missing person report filed, her neighbors questioned, her daily movements reconstructed as meticulously as memory allowed. Her absence created a vacuum in the familiar. A quiet street without the sound of her footsteps. A home without the late-night creak of her routine. But the official record is mercilessly clinical. Name, age, date last seen, location, reporting party. No narrative, no emotional weight. Only gaps. After that day, the trail ended. The disappearance triggered a search. Officers followed standard protocols, canvassing the neighborhood, contacting friends and family, logging every tip that came in. Boats were checked along the waterfront. Docks and underpasses were surveyed. Files were opened, notes taken. Leads were pursued, some immediately discarded, others delayed by the limitations of the time. For a widow living alone, there were no immediate signs of struggle. There was no forced entry, no clear evidence pointing to foul play. Investigators faced the challenge of a vanishing adult, whose habits made her predictable, yet whose life offered no obvious enemies. Every missed opportunity, a delayed tip, an uncorroborated sighting, expanded the uncertainty. Weeks became months, then years. Her case remained technically open, but momentum slowed. Leads grew cold. Witness memories faded. The physical environment changed. Boats were moved, docks repaired, areas cleaned. Martha Stevens existed in documentation, but she did not exist in the present. By the late 1990s, the case had settled into bureaucratic silence. A file labeled "Missing since 1998" sat in storage, to be revisited only if new evidence emerged. Yet, even in stasis, the questions lingered. Where could she have gone? Who might have seen her last? What had been overlooked in the earliest hours? Advances in forensic science and investigative technology over the subsequent decades reopened possibilities that were previously out of reach. DNA analysis, cold case review units, and improved methods for recovering remains in complex environments gradually reshaped the boundaries of what investigators could detect. Underwater recovery techniques evolved. Areas of the waterfront and docks that had been inaccessible or assumed clear were re-examined. Investigators revisited the docks near the marina, the places Martha had been known to frequent. The renewed focus was methodical, careful, and unhurried, guided by facts rather than rumor. New interviews were conducted. Family and neighbors were re-questioned with tools designed to uncover details suppressed by trauma, time, or oversight. The goal was to reconstruct a precise timeline, pinpointing the final known movements and potential opportunities for foul play. Each lead, no matter how small, was treated as evidence. Items previously dismissed or overlooked: a boat with a missing rope, a dock with unseen decay, the memory of a passerby, were logged, catalogued, and analyzed. Slowly, the mesh of speculation was replaced by measurable facts. The breakthrough occurred when a maintenance worker inspected an area beneath one of the older docks that had been inaccessible in 1998. Something unusual was noted: a depression under the planks, partially concealed by water and debris. Recovery teams were called. Martha Stevens was located deceased beneath the dock. Identification was confirmed through dental records and cross-checked against the original missing person file. Condition reports indicated she had been in the location for the entirety of the missing years. Environmental and forensic analysis suggested she had entered the area and became trapped or incapacitated. The precise circumstances of how she came to rest there remain partially unresolved. Investigators were confronted with a mixture of relief and frustration. Relief because a search had yielded closure. Frustration because the early hours and initial procedural gaps had allowed her disappearance to persist for decades without resolution. Families, neighbors, and colleagues experienced the weight of both grief and affirmation, knowing she was found, yet powerless to undo the time lost. Official determination classified the death as accidental. Certain details, the exact mechanism of her death, the role of environmental factors, remain partially unanswered, preserved in the cold case file for potential future study. This case is no longer active in the sense of a missing person investigation, yet it remains a reference point for institutional learning. The importance of early action, thorough initial searches, and repeated reassessment of cold areas. The record serves as a cautionary example of how even ordinary, reliable lives can be disrupted by chance, circumstance, and delay. The legacy of Martha Stevens exists in documentation, procedural reflection, and the human memory of those who knew her. The case reminds us that the work of investigation extends beyond recovery. It is a study of failure, diligence, and eventual truth. This has been a review of a case buried in procedure.